Nicholas Williams was working as a security guard in 2023 when he fired a warning shot at a belligerent, brick-throwing trespasser, hitting the man in the leg. Well, police arrested him, and Williams faced a minimum of 10 years in prison until he was saved by the equivalent of a legal miracle. Investigative reporter Mike Perlstein explains in this exclusive story.
It was a security guard trying to protect the customers.
How could you possibly arrest someone for protecting themselves?
Quite unusual.
His family, his attorney, and independent legal experts all shake their head at the case of Nicholas Williams, a longtime security guard at the Family Dollar store in Gentilly.
His job was to try to keep the public and the community safe, and that's what he was doing. Because he fired a warning shot. Wasn't trying to hit anybody.
But according to a police report, Williams' bullet hit Landon Guidry, a 32-year-old homeless man. Guidry was known to police for multiple arrests and convictions, and he was well known to Williams for repeatedly getting kicked out of the store. One of those times was on April 10th, 2023.
You would assume that somebody who was threatening customers, who was throwing bricks, that would be the problem.
Police didn't see it that way. The 39-year-old Williams was booked with aggravated battery. Even after the district attorney's office added an extra charge before trial, what's known as a firearms enhancement, Williams and his family figured it would all get sorted out by the court system.
We all just really thought it was just gonna always be a self-defense type thing.
The trial did not go well for Williams.
Not only was he convicted, but he was convicted with a gun enhancement charge, and we were just amazed at how the system could have failed him.
Williams faced anywhere from probation to up to 10 years in prison for the aggravated battery. But in Louisiana, the firearms enhancement tacks on an extra mandatory sentence of 10 years. He was taken into custody immediately. His family was devastated, especially his mom, Tanya Williams Brumfield.
This is a decent young man with a good family from a good background, and it just did not seem to matter.
It seemed very unfair.
A new attorney, Jerome Matthews, was appointed to represent Williams for the sentencing. He saw grounds for an appeal. The jury convicted Williams even though the victim never showed up for trial. And aside from the police report, the DA's office never even presented evidence that he was injured.
He was protecting the store, self-defense, no victim. He was still convicted of aggravated battery.
It really tore the family down.
Matthews filed a flurry of motions to try and get the conviction overturned. In an unprecedented move, the DA's office joined one of them, an attempt to get the firearms enhancement thrown out.
Even the district attorney said, okay, this is excessive.
But the verdict could not be undone. Retired Judge Jerome Winsberg, former chief judge at the New Orleans Criminal Court, said jury verdicts with mandatory sentences are almost untouchable.
The law dictates in these mandatory minimum sentence, which would apply here, that the judge impose the sentence as written.
Then the case took a bizarre turn. The case was allotted to a new judge for sentencing. Letters of support for Williams flooded in.
We had 31 letters from family members, I believe, including saying that as soon as he's released from custody, we had his supervisor said he can come right back to work.
Matthews attempted the longest of legal long shots.
This is literally a Hail Mary.
What Matthews did, basically, was throw his client to the mercy of the court. Sometimes called a Dorothy motion, sometimes called ends of justice, it amounted to a last-ditch plea for compassion.
It's very rare that it happens.
Yet it worked. In a ruling that may take place once a decade at Tulane and Broad, Judge Simone Levine sentenced Williams to probation and credit for the 8 months he had already served behind bars.
All I could do was cry.
The judge ruled that a 10-year sentence would be excessive. She was moved by Williams' personal story, describing him as, quote, a dutiful son, patient sibling, responsible father, competent and conscientious employee, and responsible citizen. Loyola law professor Dane Cialino said the legal move is hardly ever tried, much less granted.
Quite extraordinary, and the judge obviously making every effort to bulletproof the reasons for imposing that sentence below the statutory minimum.
It does take a brave judge to do that very thing, and you can see how rarely it's done.
Williams is now reunited with his daughter and back at work. Mike Perlstein, WWL, Louisiana.
The family's legal nightmare did not end there. And in a follow-up story tomorrow, Mike will explain the bizarre circumstances that led to a felony charge against Nicholas's mom. She says she was just trying to help her son, and now she's facing possible prison time herself.